I'm Emma Garcia, and 3 hours ago my entire career went to hell in a handbasket. The Whitmore manuscript, a 16th century illuminated text worth more than my annual salary, had vanished from our climate-controlled vault like smoke. 27 years old, green eyes that usually sparkled with confidence now filled with panic, and my brunette hair pulled back in what my colleagues called my serious librarian bun. Today it felt more like a noose. "Emma, breathe," I muttered, staring at the empty display case. Security footage showed nothing. No broken locks, no signs of forced entry. The damn thing just disappeared. My phone buzzed. Text from my boss, emergency meeting. Monday, 8 a.m. Translation, prepare your resignation letter. I needed air. Fresh October air and maybe a strong drink. The Boston Arts Festival was in full swing when I stumbled into Copley Square, my mind spinning like a broken compass. Street performers lined the walkways, their music mixing with autumn leaves crunching underfoot. I should have gone home, should have called in sick, should have done anything except watch my career implode in real time. Then I saw her. A blonde woman in a leather jacket stood mesmerized by a street magician's performance. She had the kind of confident posture that made people notice, blue eyes focused intently on the performer's hands. Something about her stillness drew me closer. "Ladies and gentlemen," the magician announced, "I need a volunteer with a love of books." Without thinking, both the blonde and I raised our hands simultaneously. Our eyes met across the small crowd, and she smiled. Not a polite smile, a real one that reached those stunning blue eyes. "Perfect. 2 book lovers," the magician grinned. "Come forward." We approached from opposite sides of his makeshift stage. Up close, she was even more striking. Mid-20s maybe, with short blonde hair that caught the afternoon light and a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. "I'm Lila," she said, extending her hand. "Emma." Her handshake was firm, confident, professional. The magician handed us each a leather-bound book. "Hold these tight. Don't let go." His performance was standard fare, lots of flourishing and dramatic gestures. But when he asked us to open our books, mine was completely blank. Lila's contained a single message. "Some things are worth finding." We looked at each other and burst out laughing. Not polite festival laughter, but the kind that comes from genuine surprise and shared absurdity. "Coffee?" Lila asked as the crowd dispersed. "I mean, unless you have somewhere important to be." I almost said yes immediately, then remembered my disaster of a day. "Actually, I'm having the worst professional crisis of my life." "Perfect. I'm a private detective. Professional crises are my specialty." A private detective. Of course she was. That explained the confidence, the way she'd studied the magician's hands like she was memorizing evidence. "Someone stole a manuscript from my library," I found myself saying. "Rare, valuable, probably irreplaceable." Lila's expression shifted, becoming more focused. "When?" "Sometime between yesterday evening and this morning. No signs of break-in. No security footage. It's like it just vanished." "Things don't just vanish, Emma. They get moved, hidden, sold." She paused. "I could help, if you want." Part of me wanted to say no. Keep it professional, handle it through proper channels. But looking into those blue eyes, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. What would it cost? "How about we start with that coffee and see where it goes?" Monday morning arrived like a death sentence. My emergency meeting with Director Harrison loomed at 8 a.m., but first I had to show Lila the scene of the crime. She'd insisted on seeing the special collections vault before we went any further. "Most people never get past the main reading room," I explained, swiping my keycard at the restricted access door. "The temperature in here stays at exactly 68 degrees, humidity at 45%. Lila's eyes swept the vault like a scanner, taking in every detail. Cameras positioned in corners, motion sensors, the works. She moved with the fluid grace of someone comfortable in any environment. "Show me where it was displayed." I led her to the empty case, my stomach churning again. The Whitmore manuscript. 1587. Hand-illuminated prayer book with gold leaf details. Worth? Conservative estimate? 200,000. Lila whistled softly, then crouched beside the case. "Lock mechanism?" biometric scanner. Only 3 people have access. Including you. Including me. Our eyes met as she stood, and for a moment I forgot about manuscripts and theft. There was something magnetic about watching her work, the way she processed information with laser focus. I need to interview your colleagues. The next 2 hours were torture. Lila questioned my coworkers with professional efficiency, while I tried not to stare at the way she moved, the way she tilted her head when listening. Margaret from cataloging acted nervous, stumbling over simple questions about weekend schedules. She's hiding something, Lila murmured, as we walked to the parking garage. Margaret's been here 15 years. She wouldn't steal anything. Maybe not. But she knows who did. We drove to Ashworth Rare Books on Newbury Street, following a lead about recent inquiries into 16th century manuscripts. The shop owner, a thin man named Clemens, grew visibly agitated when Lila showed her detective credentials. I haven't seen any Whitmore manuscript, he insisted, hands shaking slightly. We didn't mention the name Whitmore, Lila replied smoothly. Clemens's face went pale. I haven't seen any manuscripts from that period recently. But you have been contacted about them? Perhaps. I get many inquiries. Lila pressed him for details, her voice never rising but carrying an edge that made him squirm. I found myself admiring her technique, the way she controlled the conversation without seeming aggressive. Someone called last week, Clemens finally admitted, asking about authentication services for illuminated texts. But I told them I don't handle that sort of work anymore. Outside the shop, Lila grinned. He's lying through his teeth, but at least we know someone's been shopping your manuscript around. How can you tell he was lying? 15 years as a detective. Plus he kept touching his nose. Classic tell. We found ourselves at a small cafe on Boylston, ostensibly to discuss the case, but really just because neither of us wanted the day to end. Lila ordered black coffee. I went for something with enough sugar to calm my nerves. You're not what I expected in a librarian, she said, leaning back in her chair. What did you expect? Glasses, cardigan, maybe a cat named Dewey. I laughed. No cat. But I do have the glasses somewhere. I'd like to see those sometime. The way she said it made my pulse quicken. There was something in her voice, a suggestion that went beyond professional interest. Lila, I started, then lost my nerve. What? Nothing, just, thank you for helping with this. She reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Emma, I haven't felt this interested in a case in months. Or this interested in... She didn't finish the sentence, but her thumb traced a small circle on my wrist. The simple touch sent electricity up my arm. We should probably focus on finding your manuscript, she said, but didn't move her hand. Probably, I agreed, making no effort to pull away. The cafe was nearly empty, late afternoon light filtering through windows. Lila's blue eyes held mine steadily. There's something I should tell you, she said quietly. What? I think you're beautiful. And I don't usually mix business with pleasure, but... Before I could respond, she leaned forward and kissed me. Soft, tentative, giving me every chance to pull away. Instead, I found myself kissing her back, my free hand reaching up to touch her face. When we broke apart, both of us were breathing harder. That was... I started. Completely unprofessional? I was going to say perfect. That kiss changed everything. By Wednesday evening, I'd invited Lila to my apartment in Back Bay, ostensibly to review case files spread across my dining table. The stolen manuscript felt like a distant concern compared to the way my heart raced every time she walked into a room. Your place is exactly what I imagined, Lila said, examining my floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Organized chaos with a literary theme. Is that detective speak for messy? It's detective speak for lived in. Comfortable. She picked up a photo from my mantel. College? Harvard. Library science program. I moved closer, close enough to smell her perfume. What about you? Always wanted to be a detective? Actually, I started in corporate security. Boring stuff. Insurance fraud, employee theft. She set the photo down carefully. Then I realized I was better at finding things that didn't want to be found. Like stolen manuscripts? like stolen manuscripts, and complicated women who hide behind professional facades. The way she said it made my breath catch. I don't hide. No? Then why do I get the feeling there's so much more to Emma Garcia than the serious librarian act? She stepped closer, and suddenly the case files on my table seemed irrelevant. We were standing inches apart, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in her blue eyes. Maybe because there is, I whispered. Show me. The invitation hung between us like a challenge. Part of me wanted to retreat to safer ground, discuss witness statements and evidence. But a larger part, the part I'd kept carefully contained for years, wanted something else entirely. Lila, I should tell you something. What? I've dated men, but I've always wondered. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I've never been with a woman. Her expression softened. Are you sure about this? Instead of answering with words, I kissed her. This time there was nothing tentative about it. Her hands found my waist, pulling me closer, and I melted into her warmth. Emma, she murmured against my lips. Bedroom. Now. We barely made it down the hallway. Her hands were in my hair, mine fumbling with the buttons of her shirt. Years of wondering, of pushing down feelings I didn't understand, culminated in this moment. She was gentle at first, almost reverent in the way she touched me. Her lips traced patterns across my skin that made me arch against her. When she whispered my name, it sounded like a prayer. You're perfect, she breathed, and I believed her. What followed was a revelation. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered endearment felt like coming home to myself. She knew exactly how to make me respond, how to build the tension until I was breathless and wanting. When I finally cried out her name, it was with the force of years of suppressed desire. She held me afterward, both of us trembling slightly, my head on her chest, listening to her heartbeat slow. That was... I started. Your first time with a woman? My first time feeling like myself. She kissed the top of my head. Good. Because I have no intention of letting you go. We lay tangled in my sheets, the city lights filtering through my bedroom windows. The manuscript, the investigation, the professional crisis that had brought us together, all seemed secondary to this discovery. Tell me about your first time, I said, tracing lazy circles on her shoulder. With a woman, I mean. College roommate, Sarah Chen. Pre-med student with the most beautiful hands I'd ever seen. Lila's voice held fond remembrance. She was studying for anatomy exams, and I volunteered to be her practice dummy. That's romantic. It was practical. Until it wasn't. She turned to face me. What about you? When did you first know? Honestly? Probably in high school. My best friend Jessica. I told myself I just admired her confidence, her style. But looking back, you wanted to kiss her. I wanted to do a lot more than kiss her. I felt myself blushing again. I buried those feelings pretty deep. Well, they're definitely unburied now. We made love again, slower this time, learning each other's rhythms. Lila was patient and thorough, teaching me things about my own body I'd never known. By the time we finally fell asleep, dawn was breaking over Boston Harbor. I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Lila moving around my kitchen. She'd borrowed one of my oversized Harvard t-shirts, and the sight of her bare legs in my clothes sent a fresh wave of desire through me. Good morning, beautiful, she said, handing me a mug. Good morning, I kissed her, tasting coffee and possibility. So what happens now? Now we solve your case. And figure out what this is between us. In that order? Definitely not in that order. Thursday morning hit like a cold slap of reality. I woke up in Lila's arms, sunlight streaming through my bedroom windows, and for a blissful moment, everything felt perfect. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Director Harrison. Meeting moved to this afternoon. Bring all documentation regarding the Whitmore incident. Shit, I muttered, carefully extracting myself from Lila's embrace. What's wrong? Her voice was thick with sleep, blonde hair tousled against my pillow. Work stuff, reality checking in. Lila sat up, instantly alert. Second thoughts about last night? No. Never. I leaned down to kiss her forehead. But I'm terrified about mixing this up with the case. What if I lose my job and screw up whatever this is between us? Emma, look at me. Her blue eyes were serious now. We take this one step at a time. No pressure. The case is the case, and we are we. That simple? That simple. But it wasn't simple at all. Over breakfast, every casual touch felt charged with meaning. When she handed me coffee, our fingers lingered. When I reached for the case files, she caught my wrist and pulled me down for a kiss that made me forget about manuscripts entirely. Focus, Garcia, I told myself. Professional first. Did you just call yourself by your last name? Lila grinned. Old habit. Helps me think clearly. And am I preventing clear thinking? Completely. We were reviewing witness statements when my phone rang. Detective Martinez from Boston PD, Lila's former colleague. Edwards, you need to drop the Ashworth case, now. Lila put the call on speaker. What case? I'm working a private matter. The rare book dealer. Clemens, he's dead. The words hit like ice water. I grabbed Lila's hand without thinking. When? Lila's voice went professional instantly. Last night. Looks like robbery gone wrong, but nothing was taken. Just like your missing manuscript situation. Martinez, what aren't you telling me? Someone broke into his shop around midnight. Beat him pretty badly before he died. This isn't some simple theft anymore, Lila. It's murder. After he hung up, we sat in stunned silence. The man we'd questioned just 2 days ago was dead. The man who'd been nervous, who'd known more than he'd admitted. This is my fault, I whispered. If we hadn't gone there, if we hadn't pushed him. Hey. Lila turned to face me fully. This is not on you. Clemens was already involved in something dangerous before we ever walked into his shop. But now he's dead. Which means we're on to something big. Bigger than a stolen manuscript. She was right, but that didn't make the guilt any easier. We'd stirred up something deadly, and an innocent man had paid the price. What do we do now? We be very, very careful. Lila stood, pacing my small living room. And we don't back down. Whoever killed Clemens doesn't want that manuscript found. Which means we're getting close. Lila, maybe we should let the police handle this. The police just told me to drop it. That means someone with influence wants this buried. She stopped pacing, looking directly at me. Emma, I need to know you're with me on this. Because if we keep digging, it's going to get dangerous. I thought about the safe, predictable life I'd been living. Cataloging books, avoiding risks, keeping my deepest feelings buried. Then I looked at Lila, fierce and determined, offering me a chance at something real. I'm with you. Even if it means putting your job at risk. Especially then. She crossed the room and kissed me hard, all passion and gratitude. Then we do this together. That afternoon, I faced Director Harrison's questions about security protocols and insurance procedures. He was fishing. Looking for someone to blame. I gave him nothing, professional courtesy masking the turmoil underneath. The investigation is ongoing, I told him. I'm confident we'll recover the manuscript. You seem awfully calm for someone whose career is hanging by a thread. I have help. A private investigator. At whose expense? Mine. He didn't like that answer, but he couldn't argue with it. I left his office feeling oddly liberated. For the first time in my adult life, I was choosing uncertainty over safety. Lila was waiting in the parking garage, leaning against her car like something out of a noir film. When she saw me, her face lit up with concern. How bad? I still have a job, for now. And us? I answered by backing her against the car and kissing her thoroughly, not caring who might see. When we broke apart, she was grinning. I'll take that as confirmation. Take it as a promise. That evening, we made love with urgency, as if the danger surrounding us had stripped away pretense. Afterward, lying in the dark, I realized I'd never felt more alive. Whatever happens with this case, I whispered. I want you to know something. What? You've given me myself back. She pulled me closer. Then let's make sure we both survive to enjoy it. Friday morning brought a restless energy I couldn't shake. Clemens's murder had rattled us both, but Lila insisted we keep investigating. Backing down now means he died for nothing, she'd said over coffee. her jaw set with determination. We decided to canvass antique shops near Clemens's store, looking for anyone who might have information about rare book trafficking. The third shop we visited, tucked between a vintage clothing store and a used record shop on Charles Street, felt different from the moment we walked in. "Welcome to Timeless Treasures," called an elderly woman from behind towers of dusty furniture. "Looking for anything particular?" "Actually, we're investigating the theft of a rare manuscript," Lila said, showing her credentials, "wondering if anyone's approached you about authentication services." The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Chen, shook her head. "Nothing like that. But you're welcome to browse. Sometimes people find exactly what they didn't know they were looking for." I wandered toward a display case filled with antique jewelry, while Lila questioned Mrs. Chen about recent customers. Something caught my eye immediately. A small wooden jewelry box, ornately carved with Celtic knotwork that looked familiar. "Lila," I called softly, "come look at this." She excused herself and joined me at the case. The moment she saw the box, her expression changed. "That pattern," she whispered. "It matches the border illustrations in the Whitmore manuscript photos." Exactly what I was thinking. Mrs. Chen appeared beside us. "Ah, you have good taste. That piece came in just last week. The seller said it was a family heirloom but needed quick cash." "Did they leave contact information?" Lila asked. "I'm afraid not. Cash transaction. But there was something odd about her." "Her?" Young woman, maybe 30. Spoke with a slight accent, Irish maybe. She seemed nervous, kept looking over her shoulder like someone might be following her. Lila and I exchanged glances. This was too much of a coincidence. "How much for the box?" I asked. $75. I handed over the cash without hesitation. The moment Mrs. Chen placed it in my hands, I felt a strange connection to it, like it held secrets waiting to be discovered. We were examining our purchase in the car when I noticed her. A woman in a dark coat standing across the street, partially hidden behind a bus stop advertisement. When our eyes met, she turned quickly and walked away. "Lila? We're being watched." "Where?" "Bus stop. Dark coat. She just left." Lila started the engine immediately. "We need to get somewhere public. Now." We drove to Boston Common, parking near the visitor center where plenty of people were around. But the feeling of being watched persisted. "Open the box," Lila said. Inside, nestled in faded velvet, was a small brass key and a folded piece of parchment. The parchment contained a hand-drawn map of what looked like downtown Boston, with several locations marked with tiny crosses. "This isn't random," I breathed. "Someone wanted this box to be found. The question is, by who?" We spent the afternoon researching the locations marked on the map. Most were historical sites, churches and old buildings dating back to colonial times. But one mark fell directly on the Boston Public Library, specifically the research archives. "Someone's leading us somewhere," Lila said as we walked back to my apartment. "The question is whether it's toward answers or into a trap. Only one way to find out." That evening, I felt jumpy and paranoid. Every sound in the hallway made me freeze. When Lila suggested ordering takeout instead of going to dinner, I agreed immediately. "You're scared," she observed as we ate Chinese food on my couch. "Terrified. A man is dead, we're being followed, and I have no idea what we've stumbled into. Want to quit? No. That's what scares me most. A week ago, I would have run straight to the police and hidden behind protocol. Now I want to see this through. Because of the manuscript? Because of you." She set down her chopsticks and moved closer. "Emma, I need you to know something. Whatever this is, whatever we find, I won't let anything happen to you." "You can't promise that." "I can promise I'll try." We were cleaning up dinner when my apartment's buzzer rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and it was nearly 10 p.m. "Don't answer it," Lila said immediately. The buzzer rang again, more insistently. Then my phone rang. "Emma Garcia." The voice was female, with a slight Irish accent. "Who is this?" "Someone who knew your grandfather." "We need to talk." "My grandfather died when I was 12. "I know. He was my grandmother's business partner." "That manuscript you're looking for?" It belongs to my family. I looked at Lila, whose expression had gone deadly serious. What do you want? I asked. To meet, tomorrow morning. Boston Common, by the swan boats. Come alone. I don't think so. Emma, listen carefully. That manuscript contains information that certain people will kill for, including the man who died 2 days ago. If you want to live long enough to see justice done, you'll meet me. The line went dead. Well, Lila said, after I explained the call. That's not ominous at all. What do? We go to that meeting, but not alone, and definitely not unprepared. She pulled me into her arms, and I realized I was shaking. Hey, she whispered. We're going to figure this out. What if we don't? Then at least we'll go down fighting together. Saturday morning at Boston Common felt like stepping into a spy novel. Lila had positioned herself near the visitor center with a clear view of the swan boats, while I walked alone toward the meeting point. The ornate jewelry box weighed heavy in my purse, along with copies of everything we'd discovered. The woman waiting by the boats was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with dark red hair and the kind of pale skin that suggested Irish heritage. She wore jeans and a green sweater, looking more like a graduate student than a dangerous conspirator. Emma Garcia? She asked as I approached. You have me at a disadvantage. You know my name, but I don't know yours. Siobhan O'Malley. My grandmother was Bridget O'Malley. The name meant nothing to me, but her nervous energy was infectious. She kept glancing around like she expected someone to jump out from behind the trees. You said you knew my grandfather. Patrick Garcia worked with my grandmother in the 1970s. They were part of a group that recovered stolen artifacts from private collections and returned them to their rightful owners. My grandfather was an accountant. Your grandfather was many things, including someone who believed that cultural treasures belonged to the people, not wealthy collectors. Siobhan pulled out a faded photograph. That's him with my grandmother in Dublin, 1974. I stared at the image. It was definitely my grandfather, but 20 years younger and holding what looked like an illuminated manuscript, the same style as the Whitmore. The manuscript in your library, Siobhan continued, was stolen from my family's collection in 1962. My great-grandfather was forced to sell his entire library to pay debts, but several pieces were taken without his knowledge or consent. So you stole it back? I recovered it. There's a difference. Tell that to Clemens. Her face darkened. I didn't kill him, but I know who did. She explained that the manuscript contained more than prayers and illuminated text. Hidden within the binding was a map showing the locations of artifacts stolen from Irish families during the Troubles. Valuable pieces that had been smuggled to America and sold to private collectors. There's a network of people who've been profiting from these thefts for decades, Siobhan said. When I started trying to recover my family's property, they decided I was a threat. And now they think I'm involved. You are involved, the moment you started investigating with that detective of yours. I felt Lila's presence before I saw her, approaching from the left with casual confidence. Siobhan tensed immediately. You said, come alone. I said a lot of things. Lila, meet Siobhan. Siobhan, this is Lila. The detective. Siobhan's tone was wary but not hostile. I suppose you're going to arrest me. That depends, Lila said, settling onto the bench beside us. Are you planning to kill anyone else? I told Emma, I didn't kill Clemens. But, you know who did? Siobhan nodded grimly. A man named Vincent Torres. He runs a private security firm that specializes in recovering stolen property. Except he's been using it as cover to steal artifacts and sell them to the highest bidder. Why should we believe you? I asked. Because he's coming after you next. The words sent ice through my veins. Lila immediately moved closer, her hand finding mine. Torres thinks you have the manuscript, Siobhan continued. When he realizes you don't, he'll try to use you as leverage to get to me. So what do you propose? We work together. Use the manuscript as bait to draw him out, then turn him over to the authorities with evidence of everything he's done. Lila squeezed my hand. It's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, I replied. At least this way we're taking action instead of just reacting. We spent the next hour planning. Siobhan would arrange a meeting with Torres, claiming she wanted to make a deal. Lila would coordinate with her police contacts to have backup ready. I would stay somewhere safe until it was over. Absolutely not, I said when they suggested hiding me away. This started with my manuscript. I'm seeing it through. Emma, this isn't a game, Lila protested. I know that. But I'm not sitting on the sidelines while you two risk your lives. That afternoon, we returned to my apartment to prepare. The tension of the morning had left us all wound tight, but when Siobhan stepped out to make some calls, Lila and I found ourselves alone. I'm scared, I admitted. Good. Scared keeps you alert. I'm scared I'll lose you before we figure out what this is between us. She pulled me into her arms then, kissing me with desperate intensity. You're not going to lose me. What followed was passionate and urgent, as if we were trying to memorize each other through touch. She was gentle but insistent, her hands and lips mapping every inch of my skin with reverent attention. When I whispered her name, it came out like a prayer. We made love with the windows open, afternoon light streaming across my bed, the distant sounds of the city mixing with our quiet gasps and murmured endearments. Afterward, we lay tangled together, both breathing hard. Promise me something, I said, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. What? Promise me that when this is over, we'll take a real vacation, somewhere with no manuscripts, no mysteries, no danger. Just us? Just us. She kissed the top of my head. Deal. Where do you want to go? Somewhere warm, with a beach and room service. I like the way you think. When Siobhan returned, she found us dressed but obviously intimate, sitting close together on the couch while reviewing our plan. If she had any opinions about our relationship, she kept them to herself. Torres agreed to meet tomorrow night, she announced. Pier 6. He thinks I'm bringing the manuscript to make a trade. What's he offering in return? Lila asked. Your lives. And Emma's job security. Generous of him. Vincent Torres is many things, but generous isn't one of them, which means he's desperate. As evening fell, the three of us shared takeout pizza and went over every detail of tomorrow's plan. But underneath the strategy and preparation, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into something much bigger than any of us realized. Sunday evening descended on Boston Harbor like a held breath. The plan was simple. Siobhan would meet Torres at Pier 6 with a fake manuscript, Lila's police contacts would provide backup from strategic positions, and I would stay hidden in Lila's car with a radio to coordinate. Simple plans, in my experience, never stayed simple. Last chance to reconsider, Lila said, as we parked 3 blocks from the pier. You could still go to your apartment, lock the door, and let us handle this. Not happening. Stubborn librarian. You're stubborn librarian. She leaned over and kissed me, soft and lingering. When this is over, I'm taking you somewhere safe and not letting you out of bed for a week. Promise? Absolutely. At 8 p.m., Siobhan walked toward the pier carrying a leather portfolio that looked convincing from a distance. Lila took position behind a shipping container with a clear view of the meeting point. I crouched in the back seat of her car, radio in hand, heart hammering against my ribs. Target approaching, came Detective Martinez's voice over the radio. Black sedan, 2 occupants. Through the car window, I watched Vincent Torres emerge from the sedan. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, with the kind of expensive suit that screamed corporate criminal. His companion stayed by the car, hand resting inside his jacket. Siobhan O'Malley, Torres called out as he approached. You've caused me considerable trouble. Vincent Torres, you've caused my family considerable pain. Business is business. You have something that belongs to my clients. Actually, you have something that belongs to my family. The conversation continued, but I lost track of the words when I noticed movement near the warehouse behind them. More men, at least 3, moving to surround Siobhan's position. Lila, I whispered into the radio. Behind the warehouse. Multiple targets. I see them. Martinez, we need to move now. Everything happened at once. Torres's men closed in on Siobhan from 3 directions while his companion drew a gun. Lila emerged from cover, weapon drawn, shouting police commands. Martinez and two other officers appeared from behind containers. Then Torres grabbed Siobhan and pressed a gun to her head. "Everyone back off, or the girl dies." "Let her go, Torres," Lila called out. "You're surrounded." "Actually, Detective, I think you'll find the situation is reversed." That's when I saw the van approaching from the opposite direction, moving fast toward Lila's position. Without thinking, I grabbed the car keys and started the engine. Lila was about to be flanked, and none of the officers were in position to help. I gunned the engine and drove straight at the van, clipping its rear corner and sending it spinning into a light pole. The impact threw me forward, but the seatbelt held. Through the windshield, I saw Torres's attention split between Siobhan and the chaos I'd created. That moment of distraction was all Lila needed. She moved with fluid precision, covering ground fast while Torres was looking elsewhere. By the time he turned back, she was close enough to take the shot if necessary. "Drop the weapon, Torres. It's over. You think this ends here? My clients have resources you can't imagine. Your clients will have to find new help. You're done." The standoff lasted another tense minute before Torres finally released Siobhan and dropped his gun. Martinez and the other officers moved in immediately, securing the scene. I climbed out of the damaged car on shaking legs, adrenaline making everything feel surreal. Lila reached me first, pulling me into her arms with fierce intensity. "What the hell were you thinking? That I was about to watch the woman I love get killed?" She stopped mid-protest. "The woman you love?" "Yes. The woman I love." Instead of responding with words, she kissed me hard, right there in front of the police officers and handcuffed criminals. When we broke apart, both of us were breathing hard. "I love you too," she whispered. "You reckless, brilliant, impossible woman." Siobhan approached, rubbing her wrists where Torres had grabbed her. "Thank you, both of you." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now Torres faces charges for murder, theft, and a dozen other crimes," Martinez said, joining us. "And you get your manuscript back." "It's evidence now," Siobhan added. "But once the case is closed, it'll be returned to the library where it belongs." "What about the map? The other stolen artifacts?" "That's going to take time to sort out." Torres kept detailed records, thank goodness. Dozens of families will finally get their heritage back. As the police finished processing the scene, Lila and I stood together watching the harbor lights reflect on the water. The danger was over, but the adrenaline was still coursing through my system. "So what now?" I asked. "Now, we go home. Deal with the paperwork. Probably spend the next few days giving statements." I meant, with us. She turned to face me fully. "Emma Garcia, you just told me you love me while ramming a van with a stolen car to save my life. I think it's safe to say we're in this for the long haul. Even if I'm a magnet for dangerous situations, especially then. Life with you is definitely not going to be boring." We kissed again, softer this time, with the promise of all the tomorrows stretching ahead of us. In the distance, I could see Siobhan talking with Martinez, probably arranging to have the real manuscript properly authenticated and documented. "There's something I need to tell you," I said as we walked back toward the damaged car. "What?" "I've never felt more alive than I have these past few days. Scared out of my mind, but alive." "Good. Because I have a feeling our adventures are just getting started." "Is that a promise or a threat?" "With you?" "Both." 3 weeks after Torres's arrest, life had settled into something resembling normalcy. The Whitmore manuscript was back in its climate-controlled case. Director Harrison had offered me a promotion to head of special collections, and Lila's reputation as a private detective had skyrocketed thanks to the media coverage. "Ready for this?" Lila asked as we stood outside the Boston Public Library's research archives. In my hands was the brass key from the antique jewelry box, finally put to use. Siobhan had spent weeks researching the locations on the parchment map, and this was the last site we needed to investigate. After everything we've been through, I'm ready for anything. The key opened a safety deposit box that had been registered under my grandfather's name in 1975. Inside were documents that painted a completely different picture of Patrick Garcia than the quiet accountant I'd known as a child. "Look at this," I breathed, unfolding a letter written in his careful handwriting. He wasn't just helping recover stolen artifacts, he was documenting an entire network of art theft spanning 3 decades. Your grandfather was basically running an underground investigation into cultural heritage crimes, Lila said, examining photographs and detailed notes. This is incredible. The final document was a deed to a small property in County Cork, Ireland, left to me in a will I'd never known existed. Attached was a note for Emma, when she's old enough to understand that some treasures can't be measured in money. He knew, I whispered. Somehow, he knew I'd end up involved in this. Or maybe he just knew you'd grow up to be someone who cared about justice. We spent the afternoon cataloging everything, ensuring it would be properly preserved and made available to researchers. The work felt natural, combining my library skills with the investigative instincts Lila had helped me discover. So what do we do with the property in Ireland? I asked as we walked back to her car. We could visit, make sure it's being properly maintained. We? You're not getting rid of me that easily, Garcia. That evening we drove to the coast, following the same route we'd taken 3 weeks ago for very different reasons. This time, instead of danger and uncertainty, we carried picnic supplies and a bottle of wine. I have something for you, Lila said as we spread a blanket on the beach. She handed me a small wrapped package. Inside was a silver locket, antique but beautifully preserved. It belonged to my grandmother. She always said it should go to someone who understood the value of hidden treasures. Lila, it's beautiful. Open it. Inside was a tiny photograph of the 2 of us from the arts festival, the moment right after the magician's performance when we'd first looked at each other and laughed. When did you get this? I may have asked the festival photographer for a copy. I had a feeling that moment was going to be important. I fastened the locket around my neck, then pulled her down for a kiss that tasted like salt air and new possibilities. I love you, I said against her lips. I love you too. We made love on the beach as the sun set, careful and tender, taking our time to explore each other without the urgency of danger driving us. Lila's hands mapped my body like she was memorizing geography, and I responded with soft gasps and whispered encouragements. The waves provided a soundtrack to our intimacy, and when I finally called out her name, it mixed with the sound of gulls and distant traffic. Afterward, we lay wrapped in the blanket, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. So, what's next for us? I asked. Well, you've got that promotion to consider. I've got 3 new cases lined up, and apparently we own property in Ireland. I meant what's next for us, together. She was quiet for a moment, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. I was thinking we could make this official, move in together, see if we can solve mysteries and build a life at the same time. Are you asking me to move in with you? I'm asking you to move forward with me, wherever that leads. I turned to face her fully. Yes. Yes to moving in together? Yes to moving forward. Yes to Ireland. Yes to whatever adventures come next. She kissed me then, soft and sweet, sealing the promise between us. There's something else, she said when we broke apart. What? I've been thinking about expanding the detective agency, specializing in art recovery and cultural heritage cases. Interested in being my research partner? You mean leave the library? I mean, create something new. Combine your expertise with mine. Make a real difference in getting stolen culture back where it belongs. The idea was terrifying and exciting in equal measure. A month ago, I would have said no immediately, chosen safety over uncertainty. But that was before I'd learned what I was capable of when pushed to my limits. Partners? I asked. In every sense of the word. We kissed again, deeper this time, as the tide came in around us. Tomorrow we'd start planning our future, figuring out logistics and paperwork. Tonight, we had the beach and each other and the promise of all the mysteries still waiting to be solved. 6 months later, autumn had returned to Boston with the same crisp air and golden leaves that had brought Lila and me together. Our new office occupied a converted brownstone in Back Bay, with Garcia and Edwards' Cultural Recovery Services painted in elegant letters on the frosted glass door. Ready for the anniversary celebration? Lila asked, adjusting her tie in the hallway mirror. We were returning to the Boston Arts Festival, not as strangers drawn to a magic show, but as partners in every sense of the word. The same festival that had changed our lives was now hosting a ceremony honoring our work in recovering stolen cultural artifacts. Almost. Just need to grab something. I retrieved the Whitmore manuscript from our office safe. It had been officially donated to our agency by the library, serving now as both a reminder of where we'd started and a symbol of what we'd accomplished. Still can't believe Director Harrison let you take it. He didn't have much choice after the mayor personally requested our services for the city's Cultural Heritage Initiative. Our work had evolved beyond simple recovery cases. We now consulted with museums, worked with international authorities on repatriation efforts, and had helped return over 40 stolen artifacts to their rightful owners or cultural institutions. Mrs. Chen called this morning, Lila said as we walked toward Copley Square. The jewelry box we bought from her? It's been officially recognized as a significant historical artifact by the Irish Cultural Ministry. Your intuition about that piece was perfect. Our intuition. We're partners, remember? The festival buzzed with the same energy I remembered from a year ago. But everything felt different through the lens of shared experience. Food vendors, street musicians, families with children running between booths, all part of a tapestry that now included our story. There he is, I said, spotting the same magician who had inadvertently brought us together. He was performing for a small crowd, doing the same routine with books and disappearing acts. We joined the audience, standing close enough that our shoulders touched. Ladies and gentlemen, I need volunteers who believe in magic. This time, we didn't raise our hands. Instead, we watched as two strangers stepped forward, a young man and woman who looked nervous but excited. The magician handed them each a book, just as he had with us. Hold tight to what matters, he instructed them. Sometimes the most important things appear when we least expect them. When the trick concluded and the books revealed their hidden messages, the two volunteers looked at each other and laughed with the same surprised delight Lila and I had shared. Think they'll fall in love? Lila murmured in my ear. If they're lucky. After the ceremony honoring our work, we walked through the festival hand in hand, stopping at the same coffee cart where we'd had our first real conversation. Emma Garcia and Lila Edwards, called a familiar voice. Siobhan O'Malley approached, looking healthier and happier than when we'd first met. How are Boston's favorite treasure hunters? Busy, I replied. How's the work in Ireland going? Wonderful. We've recovered 6 more pieces from my family's collection, and the property your grandfather left you is being converted into a research center for cultural heritage documentation. He would have loved that. I think he planned it, Siobhan said with a knowing smile. Some people have a gift for seeing connections that others miss. As evening approached, we found ourselves back at the exact spot where we'd first kissed after the magician's show. The memory was so vivid I could almost taste the nervousness and excitement of that moment. Regrets? Lila asked. About what? Leaving the safe, predictable library job, taking risks, falling in love with a woman who attracts danger. I considered the question seriously. A year ago, my biggest concern had been properly cataloging acquisitions and maintaining climate control in the Special Collections Vault. Now I carried a gun permit, spoke basic Irish Gaelic, and had testified before congressional committees about international art theft. My only regret is that it took me 29 years to find you. Better late than never. Much better. She pulled a small velvet box from her jacket pocket, and my heart stopped. Emma Garcia. Will you marry me? The ring was perfect. A simple platinum band with a small emerald that caught the festival lights like captured starlight. But more than the ring, it was the expression in Lila's blue eyes that took my breath away. Love and hope and absolute certainty. Yes, I whispered, then louder, yes. She slipped the ring onto my finger as people around us began to notice and cheer. The same crowd that had watched us as strangers a year ago was now witnessing our engagement. I love you, Emma Garcia. I love you too, Lila Edwards, soon to be Lila Garcia Edwards. I like the sound of that. We kissed as the festival continued around us, as the magician packed up his equipment, as autumn gave way to the promise of winter and all the seasons beyond. When we broke apart, both of us were crying and laughing simultaneously. So what's our next adventure? I asked. How about a honeymoon in Ireland? We can visit your grandfather's property, maybe solve a few more mysteries while we're there. Are you promising me danger and intrigue for our honeymoon? I'm promising you a lifetime of both. Perfect. As we walked home through the Boston streets, I fingered the engagement ring and the silver locket she'd given me months ago. 2 pieces of jewelry that represented the past and future, connected by this perfect present moment. 1 year ago, I'd been a lonely librarian, whose biggest risk was suggesting new cataloging systems. Now I was engaged to my best friend and business partner, surrounded by work I loved and a future full of possibilities. Some treasures, I realized, really can't be measured in money. The most valuable ones are found in moments like this, when everything you thought you wanted pales in comparison to what you never knew you needed.